case study and the before and after impact of pre-culturalization and post-culturalization, both from a download distribution perspective and more to the point, from a monetization perspective, how that can impact the game's performance. Okay, mobile games developers. Here are all the things that you guys know, love. You got a mobile game, you care about distribution, you care about discovery, you care about monetization, and you care about payment, right? So in Western markets, it's, you guys will be very familiar with that, right? Android, Google Play, Amazon, basically discovery, distribution, payment, that's all taken care of inside of one app store. Same thing on Apple. Viral propagation mechanics in your game, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. What good mobile game doesn't have a viral hook in it right now, right? You guys are very familiar with it. Monetizing free-to-play. Besides just in-app purchase, how do you monetize through offer walls, through banner ads, etc.? Tapjoy, AdMob, right? When you come to China, sorry, none of that works. Okay, so Google Play is blocked. Amazon doesn't have an app store up yet. Facebook, blocked. Twitter, blocked. YouTube, blocked. So that's the bad news, guys. That's the bad news. Okay, so Tapjoy and AdMob, they kind of work, but they don't monetize as well in China as they do in Western markets. So I'm going to tell you what you need to do, though, right? So here's what you need to integrate with.
Wow.
Okay, so there's actually more than that. I had to cram it down. There wasn't enough room on this PowerPoint. But so discovery and distribution, particularly on Android, there's over 500 app stores in China, right? Some of them are really good at discovery. Some of them are really good at distribution. Who do you work with? How do you integrate with them? Right? Social networking. Weibo, QQ, WeChat, Rinrin. You've probably heard a lot of these names bounced around before. Which network should I integrate for my game? How do I do it? Especially when the documentation is in Chinese, right? Ad networks. One of the big differences in China is that there is no AdMob or InMobi that has a really, really deep market, right? There are a lot of mid-sized ad networks. But for those of you that drive a lot of ad traffic, banner ad traffic, if you drive more than 10 million impressions a day, 24 million impressions a day, you go with one single ad network in China, you're going to absolutely flood it. Your eCPM is going to go through the floor, and your fill rates are going to be low double digits, right, or high single digits. Not good for monetization. Okay. And then payment. There's a lot of choice. What works? Okay. We're going to be talking about a lot of that. We'll give you some best practices. We have dealt with this before, so that's the good news. And then more importantly though, right, China. You talk China, everyone thinks about how do I protect my IP, right? If I got a dollar for everyone that told me, like, China is where I get my most downloads, I'd be a pretty rich guy. But then I asked the next question. Okay, so China is your largest download market. Is it your highest grossing market? I've never gotten a yes from that question, right? So how do you take advantage of those downloads and convert them into monetization, okay? Last but not least, I know it's the localization summit, so I did leave a bit of room for actual localization, right? How do you culturally adapt your products so that it plays well and is targeted to the Chinese gaming demographic? Okay, into it. So the concept of deep culturalization, I'm going to use an example with a game called AlphaZero. Anyone heard of AlphaZero? A few people. Anyone played AlphaZero? Okay. It's actually a really, really cool game. Okay. So it's a multi-touch space shooter. And we basically worked with a Funkoid team that developed AlphaZero and published them in China. First thing we did, okay, first rule of localization, do not translate into Chinese, okay? Rewrite everything, okay? If you have a game that has a very immersive storyline in particular, a lot of game narrative, if you find a translator, translate it, and then whack that into your game code, it's going to play like a Bruce Lee movie with subtitles. It just won't play well, okay? So the way that we work with our game studio partners on their games targeted for the China market, we basically play the game, read the narrative, understand it, and then we rewrite it from scratch with local Chinese, well, a lot of slang involved. Voiceovers, right? Professional voice acting from local Chinese actors. Full cinematic cutscenes, right? You gotta make sure every single element, right? All the detail that you put into creating a AAA quality English-based title, that's what you gotta do if you really want your game to succeed in the Chinese market. I'm gonna show you some of the results if you do it right. So you can actually see some of it right now on the left-hand side. 20,000 5-star reviews in 2 weeks of launching this game in China, okay? And one thing that we take pride in is that the Chinese gamers are really patriotic people. And we got a whole bunch of comments on this game that, you know, this is the best Chinese developed game ever, right? You know, and support Chinese local development. These guys don't even realize that they're playing a Western game that would fully, you know, deeply culturalize the Chinese market. So, you know, when you're getting those kind of comments and reviews on the App Store, you know you've done a good job of culturalizing your game. Okay, and the game's been on the market on iOS since mid-February, so 6 weeks since launch, and it's still top charts. So I checked about 10 minutes ago. I think it's number 3 on the iPad charts in iOS. It's number 4 on the iPhone charts on iOS. So, you know, there are dividends to be gained from doing this properly on the culturalization side. Local SNS. So when Facebook fails, Twitter fails, and YouTube fails, who do you call? QQ, 700 million users. Sina Weibo, 500 million users. Weixin, that's actually WeChat, so from Tencent, right? 300 million users, but growing very quickly. So they've grown from like 100 million users last year to 300 million, and they've got a lot of momentum. How do you integrate with them, right? Some of them have open APIs, like Sina Weibo, some of them don't. So we've actually created some technology, our SNS SDK, that basically federates those and basically provides a Facebook-like interface. Takes you about an hour to plug into that, and then we break the networks open on the back end, right? And then we maintain it, so if new mobile SNS networks come in, you know, don't worry about it. We'll manage and maintain that for you. But, you know, one example I want to show is with Hero Academy. Who's played Hero Academy? Oh, a lot more people. Great game. Who's played it recently and has used the Shaolin team? A couple of people. Okay. So unbeknownst to many people, the Shaolin team was actually not developed in the West. It was developed by our production team together with the Robot Entertainment guys out of China. And the team was designed and developed for the Chinese audience and then backported to the Western markets. So when you play the game, instead of inviting your friends to play via Facebook or via email, which no one uses for gaming, right? Email is for business in China. Automatically it detects what social network you're on in China. Is it Sina Weibo? Is it Tencent QQ? Right? And it pulls your friend list in. So it's a fully integrated experience. There is no out-of-game experience. You don't have to connect to VPN, create a Facebook account in order to find friends. And if you're Chinese, you probably don't have any friends on Facebook anyway. The other gotcha, if you're going into China, and especially if you have online games, MMOs, the Great Firewall. If you got an online game and your servers are not in China, the chances are you're going to be blocked. Especially if you, 1, host on AWS, 2, have your backend on Google App Engine. Unfortunately, the Chinese government and Google have some misunderstanding that they're not likely to resolve in the short term. So, you know, with the game studios that have online gaming backends that we work with, 2 choices. If they're open systems backend, we basically work with them to redeploy all of their servers inside of the Great Chinese Firewall. If you're working on Google App Engine, it's a bit more difficult. We basically have to rewrite your back end on open systems or find another way around it. But net, if you're going to run an MMO or an online game of any kind and have your own server infrastructure, move it to China if you're serious about the Chinese market. Otherwise, you're going to get intermittent block, you're going to get stability issues, you're going to get performance issues, et cetera, et cetera. Monetization. How many people in this room have lots of downloads in China? Over 20% of their downloads are from China. Okay, not that many people, surprising. Because I've heard that a lot, A lot of people come to me and say, China is one of our biggest download markets, right? But they don't make any money, right? 20 million downloads, and I'm making $2,000 a month, okay? So, monetization, it's really about designing monetization mechanics to monetize the broadest audience possible. When 90% of your gaming audience would never pay you a red cent, how do you make money from them? Offer walls, banner ads, obviously they need to be localized, right? My point of advice to all of you is don't worry about it, okay? If you get people to play your games, we'll find a way to help you monetize it. It could be ads, it could be offer walls, it could be other means. And I'll give you some examples of how significant that revenue can be at the end of the presentation. So new content. Games as a service, the concept of games as a service, particularly important in China because Chinese gamers by default have a very, very short attention span. So the same game in Western markets, you take that to China, your 1-day and 7-day retention rates will probably be halved, right? So a lot of games, a lot of good games in the Western markets, you're probably seeing 40%, 50%, 7-day retention rates. Take that to China, that'll be 20%, 25%, but that's actually really good for China. So if you have a single player casual game that has over 20% 7th-day retention in China, you're rocking. You'll be able to make a lot of money, okay, if you do things right. But one of the ways to create that sustained retention is that you have to operate your game after it's in market, right? Monthly content updates, particularly content updates that are targeted towards Chinese audience, that's really the way to go, right? It actually probably creates higher retention in country for you. So, some big names, Rovio, Half Brick, PopCap, they all have very popular games in China, right? Angry Birds, probably over 100 million downloads. Fruit Ninja, similar. But, they're probably not optimized for monetization. One Western studio that's done really well is actually PopCap. So PopCap's probably one of the few Western game studios that have really put an effort into understanding the Chinese demographic, and they monetize significantly well. So you're talking about, at peak, based on market numbers, over 1 million per month on Plants vs. Zombies in the Chinese market. So that's a good chunk of change if you do it right. Oh, I gotta give kudos to Clouds and Sheeps from our friends at Handy Games. Great game. About 5 million Chinese females play this game right now. So we've been adding a lot of content together with our friends at Handy Games. Mini games that drain currency, keep retention rates high, insert some soft gambling elements into it, so basically keep people coming back. But this is a title that we've partnered with them on for over 9 months, and it's gaining traction. It's actually not slowing down. So new content added on a monthly basis definitely required. Another thing that we've done, I'm running a bit short on time, but pulling people into an in-game community. So we've actually created a community platform as well. So as soon as you start your game, particularly single-player games, right? We pull everyone into a community that layers on top of the game. That actually has the impact of hugely increasing the community interaction, session times, retention rates. Putting it on a PowerPoint doesn't do it justice, so grab me after the session. I can actually give you more detail about how communities can actually increase traction significantly. Okay, so with Western games, if you want to conquer the China market, there is not one thing that you can do. It's many things, and they add up, right? Each of the things I talked about before will incrementally increase your distribution, incrementally increase your monetization. And I'm going to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes with an example. So, actually, I'm going to skip a couple of slides because I'm out of time, but this will be interesting for you. This is a Chinese App Store distribution market and what it looks like. We spent quite some time to help structure it a bit, but right now in China, particularly on Android, the top 20 app stores drive about 80% of the traffic. We think it's going to continue to consolidate this year, but the top 20 is a pretty safe bet. We actually tier them into tier 1, 2, 3 players. Tier 1 players are the players that can drive over 100,000 downloads per game per day. Our tier 2 partners are people that can drive 10,000 plus downloads per game per day. So, fairly big numbers. Ski Safari. Who's played this game? A lot more people. Okay. A really cool game. We've worked with the Defiant development guys since August last year, and the initial version of the game, English version, was paid. We had the feeling that we're going to drive a lot of impressions with this game, right? And then we federated 6 different offer walls, and then we started Android, right? One takeaway: if you're going to do Android in China, you need carrier billing. Carrier billing is the only payment method that converts well. Okay. We're talking about free-to-pay conversion rates of over 26% for Ski Safari. So that's through the roof. And when there's hundreds of millions of Android devices in China, it adds up. New content. We're actually launching Ski Safari China Edition. You'll see the Yeti is now a panda, the reindeer is now a alpaca llama, and the penguin is now a Chinese turtle. Sven, our main character, he's in his Chinese New Year suit. We've also created a panda avatar for Sven and also a terracotta warrior avatar for Sven. So last I checked this morning, it was in review by the Apple App Store, but it's actually launched on the first App Store in China on Android yesterday. 100,000 new active users on that one App Store on Android yesterday. Now let me give you the numbers. So that's the after deculturalization increase. So from 35,000 downloads in 8 months, we've gotten to total, not 8.2 million download, well actually active users in 3 months on both iOS and Android. Android's just getting started, by the way. Average daily revenue, around 15 grand US per day right now. That's after App Store fees, by the way, so that's not including Apple's cut or the carrier billing cut. So this is net that we share with the Defiant development folks. So it's a good chunk of change, right? So per month, 400, 500,000, and that's going to keep going up. So I'm running out of time, so additional resources. I write on a lot of different topics, everything from China mobile internet, social networks, game design for Chinese gamers. Please jump to Yodo1.com, China Mobile Games News, and hopefully you'll find some information that's useful to you. And lastly, I think we're live tweeting this. One of my colleagues is live tweeting this, so at Yodo1, and please retweet it. Do I have time for a couple of questions? Yes? We got 2 minutes. Any questions?
What's your view of the revenue opportunity of the mobile games versus PC client?
So I think PC gaming is right now probably a much larger market than mobile gaming, but it's a market that's plateaued. You're talking about low double digits or single digit growth per year. Mobile gaming is 4-digit percentage growth per year, right? So let me give you an example. So, particularly on Android, right? 6 months ago, it was really hard to monetize, particularly because carrier billing wasn't mature. A top-grossing single-player casual game on Android was probably doing 10, 15 grand US per month, right? Now, $500,000 or more per month. So that's the kind of growth you're seeing just in a 6-month period. That's not slowing down. So I did a session last week at South by Southwest Austin. The title of the session was 200 million reasons to deploy your games in China. And by the time we got there, right, I had to change the topic to 500 million reasons. So, you know, that number keeps getting bigger pretty quickly. Any other questions? Yes.
I actually have 2 questions. First of all, can you talk about how much revenue you need to pay out to carriers and third-party platforms? That's one. Second, and so there's been a lot of talk about WeChat, launching mobile games on the platform. Mm-hmm. And how important do you think, having WeChat as a platform as opposed to launching a game on other platforms?
Okay, so let's take the first question first. On carrier billing, it depends. It ranges anywhere from 30% to 70%, depending on which partners you work through and which way you integrate carrier billing. But the top rev share is probably 70% to you and 30% to the carrier so far. But that said, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Worry about how much you can make off it rather than how much the carriers are making off it. So the numbers that I shared with you for Ski Safari, they were all net of carrier billing fees. So it can still be a healthy business even after carrier billing fees. The second question was about WeChat, right, as a gaming platform. I think it holds a lot of potential, but right now WeChat's not a gaming platform. It's a unified messaging, social networking tool. Tencent's spending a lot of time on developing the gaming platform business model around WeChat. And I think they'll borrow a lot from the Kakao Play model in Korea. But watch this space. I think WeChat is definitely going to be a significant player in mobile social gaming. We just don't know how yet, and we don't know what are the partnership programs, what's the rev share model, and what kind of APIs and programs they're going to provide to devs. So I think we'll get more clarity pretty soon though, within the next 2 months. Any other? Oh, I think we're out of time. If you have other questions, I'm going to hang probably for another 20 minutes, so we can take it offline. Thank you very much.